For us was surprising. He came down, he took a racket, he's playing to her, he gives some tips to Alex.
Imagine being 20 years old, standing on a clay court in Mallorca, thousands of miles from home, running serve drills under the Spanish sun, and then, out of nowhere, without any warning.
The last time I was here, which was 2 years ago, it's nice to see the welcome that I've had. There's a huge Filipino community here, so I'm so excited. Look behind you, there's a lot of...
Without anyone calling his name or sending a message or setting up a meeting, the greatest clay court player who ever lived just walks down to your court and starts fixing your technique. No cameras. No announcement. Just him, you, and the sound of a racket cutting through the afternoon air. That is not a scene from a sports movie. That is something that actually happened to Alex roughly 3 weeks before she boarded her flight to Rome, and the reason it matters more than almost anything else you will read about her this season is because 12 months before that moment, on the exact same clay surface she is now preparing to walk back into, Alex won exactly one game in an entire match. 1. And the city she lost it in was Rome. So before we talk about where she is going, we have to be honest about where she has been, because the gap between those two realities is where the real story lives. In March of this year, Alex reached a career-high ranking of number 29 in the world. Today she sits at 41, 12 spots down in 6 weeks, and the reason is not a collapse, not an injury, not a crisis of confidence. It is simply the calendar. The points she earned during last year's historic Miami semi-final run expired, and the ranking system does not care how good the run was. It just resets the clock. So the number dropped, and the conversation around her shifted, and suddenly people who had never believed started pointing at the slide like they had discovered something. But here is the part those people missed. At the Italian Open in Rome, Alex has exactly 10 ranking points to defend. 10. Which means every single match she wins inside the Foro Italico starting May 5th is pure gain. No defending. No treading water. Just forward movement, and in a sport where the math almost always works against you, that is a door swinging open at exactly the right moment. The problem is the wall standing right behind that door. Clay has been the one surface in Alex's career that has refused to be charmed, refused to bend, and refused to give her anything easy. Her 2026 clay record coming into Rome is 1 win and 3 losses. She dropped the first round in Stuttgart to Leylah Fernandez, a player she knows well and has unfinished business with. She lost in the second round in Madrid to Elise Mertens in straight sets that were not close. And then there is the ghost that has been sitting quietly in the background of every clay conversation since last May. Marta Kostyuk. Rome. May 7th, 2025. 6-love. 6-1. A scoreline so complete.
And he came down to help because he's lefty also, and he gives some tips.
So suffocating that even her most devoted supporters spent the better part of 12 months trying to move past it without really looking at it directly. 3 players who have either beaten her this season or broken her on clay in the last year are confirmed in this Rome draw. Kostyuk. Fernandez. Mertens. The clay has not just been a surface. For Alex, it has been a courtroom, and every judge she stood in front of and lost to is back in the building. So how does a player look at that draw, in that city, on that surface, and carry herself like someone arriving at something she has already decided belongs to her? That question has an answer, and the answer starts with the people she chose to surround herself with for the 2026 clay swing. Alex returned to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, which, if you know anything about clay court tennis, is already a statement in itself, because that place is not a training facility in the ordinary sense. It is a cathedral. And working alongside her primary coach Joan Bosch, she began working directly with Tony Nadal, the man who spent over a decade coaching.
I've always had a dream that kind of like when I'm in a red carpet, I'll wear what's called the Filipiniana. It's a very traditional Filipino formal wear.
His nephew Rafael to 14 Grand Slam titles and to every single one of Rafael's 10 Italian Open championships. Read that again slowly. The architect of the most dominant clay court career in the history of professional tennis is now sitting in on Alex's sessions, studying her game and helping shape her strategy for the exact surface that has given her the most grief. That alone would be enough to change the conversation. But then came the moment that genuinely does not feel real until you hear it from someone who was standing right there. Joan Bosch, speaking to a tennis publication after the Madrid swing, described what happened one afternoon at the academy with a kind of quiet amazement that coaches do not usually allow themselves in public. He said that Rafa came down to the court on his own, without anyone asking, and offered some tips specifically about the serve, noting that as a fellow left-hander he had particular insight and then later actually hit with Alex on court. And Bosch did not describe that environment with conventional language. He used the word NASA. He said being at the academy with people like that around you, it is like being at NASA. Think about what that word means when a coach says it about where his player is training. He is not talking about facilities or equipment or weather conditions. He is talking about the concentration of knowledge, of mastery, of accumulated wisdom that exists inside that place and is now being poured into a 20-year-old from the Philippines who lost 6-1 in Rome 12 months ago and came back anyway. And Alex herself has spoken about this chapter with a directness that should make her opponents genuinely uncomfortable. On the red carpet at the Laureus World Sports Awards in Madrid, she stood in front of cameras and said that clay is grittier, more physical, and more demanding than any other surface, and that anything she can take from Rafa she will take with pride. That is not the language of someone hoping to survive. That is someone announcing publicly that she intends to inherit something. Which brings us to that red carpet moment, because it deserves its own space in this story. April 20th, Madrid. While most of the field is either resting between tournaments or quietly grinding through warm-up events, Alex walks into the Laureus World Sports Awards wearing a custom Filipiniana gown designed by her uncle, the celebrated Filipino designer Rajo Laurel, sewn from pina fabric, which is the most revered traditional textile in the Philippines, woven from pineapple leaf fibers, and shipped from Manila to Madrid in a matter of days specifically for this moment. She had talked about this dream for years. Someday, when I am on a red carpet that matters, I want to wear a Filipiniana dress. And she chose this night, surrounded by Olympic gold medalists and world record holders and legends of global sport, to make that dream real. The WTA posted that arrival to their official Instagram account, and it drew 78,000 likes and nearly 900 comments. She was not attending as a guest in the background. She was a feature. A 20-year-old Filipina in the fabric of her nation at one of the most exclusive gatherings in world sport, and the room turned to look. Laureus does not send invitations to people having a moment. They invite people who are becoming something. And the institution made that distinction clearly by putting her in the room at all. That landing in Rome is the lightest she has traveled all season. In March, she defended nearly 400 points in Miami. In April, she defended points in Madrid. In Rome, 10. The pressure has inverted for the first time in months. This is the first tournament in the entire clay swing where Alex is not carrying the weight of defending something significant. She can play free. She can swing. And if you want to understand whether that freedom is backed by something real and not just a good story heading into a big week, you do not look at the highlight accounts. You listen to Joan Bosch, because Bosch is not a hype machine. He is the engineer who took a junior champion and methodically constructed the first Filipina ever to crack the WTA top 30. He stood in her player's box during the Miami semi-final. He coordinates daily with Tony Nadal. When he makes a technical assessment, he is reading from a blueprint he wrote himself. And his verdict during the Madrid swing was precise. He said clay was the surface where Alex had the most room to improve, where she was most raw, and that now she is moving much better on it. She is sliding, he said, and sliding on clay does not come naturally to every player. It is something you drill. Something you build. something you earn. Now translate that out of coach speak and into plain terms. The single biggest technical gap that Marta Kostyuk exposed in Rome 12 months ago, the inability to slide into defensive positions, to construct long rallies, and to fight through a clay point instead of trying to end it early. That specific gap is the exact thing her coach is now publicly saying has been rebuilt. The Italian Open runs from May 5th through May 17th, and Roland Garros opens on May 24th. At the French Open, Alex once again has only 10 ranking points on her ledger to defend, which means across the next 5 weeks she is staring at 20 total points to protect, while the entire upper half of the WTA ranking sits in front of her like an open highway. A run to the third round in Rome is net positive. A quarter-final pushes her back toward her career high. A deeper run puts a top 32 seeding at Roland Garros within reach, and a top 32 seeding means you are not starting the French Open from the most dangerous end of the bracket. The math is cleaner right now than it has been at any point this clay season. But beyond the rankings there is something that cannot be quantified and should not be reduced to numbers. A Filipina player trained within the legacy of the King of Clay, wearing the fabric of her nation on the most exclusive red carpet in global sport, walking into a tournament that has historically been the private ballroom of European tennis. That is not a subplot. That is the headline of a new chapter in what the WTA's global era actually looks like in practice. It is being broadcast in real time to homes from Quezon City to Cebu to Dubai, to every Filipino community living somewhere far from home and watching every match like a prayer. Manny Pacquiao said it in Tagalog on national television. He said that watching her fills him with pride, that the Philippines needs more like her. That is not celebrity endorsement. That is a country speaking through one of its most recognizable voices about a 20-year-old who is carrying something heavier than a tennis bag onto that court. And none of this rewrites the difficulty of the last 3 weeks. The clay losses were real. The margins were not close. Greg Ruzidsky, one of the most credible voices who has publicly backed her, acknowledged directly after Madrid that the scorelines were a problem. But then watch what Alex did with that chapter. Hours after leaving the Madrid court, she posted on Instagram. She wrote that she was grateful for her time there and that she would be back stronger. Then she made a decision that said more than the post did. She withdrew from the WTA 125 Catalonia Open, the smaller warm-up event she had been scheduled to play the week before Rome, and chose rest and preparation over the chance to pick up a few extra points in a lower-tier draw. She did not retreat from the clay. She edited her approach to it. She chose the main stage over the safety net. She chose Rome. So look at everything she is actually carrying through those gates this week. A coaching environment her own coach compares to NASA. The technical input of Rafael Nadal on her serve. The clay court philosophy of Tony Nadal is woven into her daily practice. A ranking situation with almost no points to defend and everything to gain. And an entire nation watching, some of them waking up in the middle of the night to catch her matches live, because she is not just a player from the Philippines. She is the player. 12 months ago this city gave her one game in 96 minutes. She did not quit the surface. She did not restructure her schedule to avoid it. She went back to Mallorca, found the people who understand clay better than almost anyone alive, did the work that no one outside that academy saw, showed up on a red carpet in Pina fabric to tell the world exactly who she is, and then booked her flight back to Rome. This is not the story of a player who has already conquered clay. This is the story of a player who has decided to and who has spent the last 12 months assembling every tool, every mind, and every inch of technical detail she needs to make that decision permanent. So here is the question, and I want you to be genuinely honest when you answer it in the comments. Does Alex make it past the second round in Rome? And if the draw gives her a rematch with Kostyuk, or Mertens, or Fernandez, does she settle that score this time? Drop your prediction below with the round and the result, because these next 5 weeks leading into Roland Garros are going to tell us something real about where this career is actually headed. If you have been watching since before Miami, since before the number 29, since before Loris, since back when you were telling people around you to pay attention and they were not listening yet, you already know what this community is. Subscribe and stay close, because Rome is the first chapter of this story, not the last, and the people who recognize the arc early deserve a front row seat to every single point that comes next.